You've seen Federer do it, you've seen Alcaraz do it, you've seen Medvedev do it. It seems so simple. All you need to do is keep your head still through contact, and it's going to help you to hit the ball more cleanly and consistently. But what you've probably found is that even though you try and focus on it, it can be really hard to do. So if you're the sort of player that tries to keep their head still on contact but really struggles and they find they're lifting their head at the last second every time or too frequently, this video is going to help you a lot, because there's normally an underlying reason why players can't keep their head still through contact, and I'm going to be explaining what that is and how you can fix it in this video. Hopefully you find it helpful. If you do, give me that thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel before, it's much appreciated if you could do that as well. So if you really struggle to keep your head still despite focusing on it, it tells you that there's an underlying reason why you can't do it. And this isn't a technical thing, so I don't have a tweak that you can make to your forehand technique or an adjustment that you can do on your backhand. This is a physical thing, because just like everything in tennis, there are physical prerequisites. Your body has to be able to do certain things. Like, you can't do a jumping two-handed backhand like Djokovic unless you can do the side splits. That should be pretty obvious. So it's the same sort of thing happens for everything else that you do on court. And here we're talking about a specific reflex called the vestibular colic reflex. Your vestibular system lives in your inner ear. It's your balance system. It does a number of really important things. One of its main jobs is to keep your eyes clear and focused on whatever you're looking at as your body and as your head moves. So the vestibular system has different receptors, and as you move your head and go into different positions, it talks to your brain, it talks to your eyes, it tells them what to do. It also talks to the rest of your body, and it helps you to maintain your posture as you move. And then obviously it's really important for balance. Well, there's a specific reflex with this vestibular system, this balance system that lives in your inner ear, called the vestibular colic reflex. And this reflex keeps your head stable as your body moves. And this is the reason why players aren't able to stabilize their head properly, because if the reflex that's responsible for keeping your head stable as your body moves isn't functioning, then you're not able to do the thing. So what I want to do in this video is show you 3 different exercises that you can work on to train and improve how your vestibular system's functioning and train this vestibular colic reflex. And when you combine that with focused on-court work, really prioritizing watching the ball through to contact and keeping your head still, it's going to make a massive difference. The first exercise that we're going to work on to train this system to help you keep your head still is something called a vestibular ocular reflex. So this is another reflex that this vestibular system is responsible for. This one is about keeping your eyes fixed on a target as your head moves. So the way that you're going to do it, you're going to hold something in front of you. So you can use a tennis ball and you can focus on one of the letters in the tennis ball. But I'm actually going to use something smaller. I'm going to use this chapstick because it's got smaller letters on it, so it's going to challenge my system a little bit more. You just need to use something that's an appropriate size so that you have to kind of focus on the visual target. So I'm going to hold this in front of me. I'm looking at one of the letters in the chapstick, and then I'm going to be turning my head while I focus on the letter. Now, what I want you to notice as well, as I do this, I'm maintaining good posture. Now, we can train this in a number of different ways, and we'll need to over time to really improve how the system functions. But at the start, I want you to have both feet pointing directly forwards, and I want you to have a neutral pelvis and a tall spine. Because as I mentioned earlier, this system is also responsible for posture, or in large part responsible for posture. By maintaining good posture when we work on these exercises, it makes the training exercise more powerful. If I'm slouching when I'm doing it, it's going to be less effective. So I want you to really think about your posture and standing nice and tall as you work on this exercise. But then your job is to keep your eyes focused on a target. So I'm just focusing on the letter E, and I'm going to turn my head to the right, keeping my eyes still. So I'm going to turn my head, keeping my eyes focused on the target, and as you can see, at the start, I'm going to go quickly out and slowly back. And that's how you train the vestibular ocular reflex. But we want to do this in 8 different directions because we've got different receptors that deal with different types of movement. So I've gone to the left, sorry, to the right. I'll also go to the left. So again, I'm keeping my eyes focused on the letter, and I'm just turning my head to the left and then slowly back to the middle. And then I'm going to do upwards. I will do downwards. And then I'm going to work on the 4 different diagonals. Now left and right, up and down are normally pretty easy, but the diagonals are unusual movements just because of the orientation of these receptors, these canals in the, within where they live in the inner ear. So if I'm going up and left, it should look like that, but it's a combination of turning your head to the left and tilting your head back. So the nose is kind of going diagonally up and left, but it looks a little bit like that. People often struggle to find this position, especially when the canal isn't working properly. So it's a good idea to practice this in front of the mirror to make sure you're doing it in the way that you want, or to record yourself like I am. So that's up and left, that's up and right. So it's the same thing. It's either nose up and right, or a combination of rotating your head to the right and tilting your head back. And then we've got the downwards diagonals. So down and left and down and right. And the downwards diagonals are the same. It's a combination of rotating the head to the left and then bringing the chin down, or going diagonally down with the nose. Or maybe you want to think about bringing your temple closer to the chest on both sides. So that's the vestibular ocular reflex. 5 reps in each of those 8 directions is going to be a good starting point, but over time you can definitely increase the number of reps, go significantly higher, and also start to work on faster and faster speeds. So before I show you the second exercise, I want to let you know that I have a coaching program where I teach players how to use brain-based training to improve their skill level, to improve how their body functions, so then they're capable of playing a higher level of tennis. If you'd like to learn more about that and potentially work together, I've got a free class that's going to teach you more about it. I'll place a link to the class up there, and I'll place a link to the class down in the description. So the second exercise that we're going to be working on is a little bit different. It's kind of similar to the previous one, but now instead of keeping our eyes still, we're now going to be moving our head and our eyes at the same time. So this is a vestibular ocular reflex cancellation. It is essential for your ability to track the ball through to contact, so to actually track the ball before stabilizing your head. So the way that you would do this, again, I'm just holding a visual target. Like I said previously, you could use something bigger, but I'm using a smaller visual target to challenge my system more, to make sure my clarity stays good as I move my head. And then I'm going to do the same 8 directions that I've just done, but now moving my head and my hand at the same speed. So I'm imagining that my nose is connected to this letter, my eyes are connected to this letter, and they're all moving at the same speed. Now notice when I do this, I'm only going to about 45 degrees, and this will depend on your neck range of motion, but if I can only turn my neck to there, I don't want to be taking the target to there. I just want to go to the same distance. So you're better off starting with a smaller range of motion. But again, we'll do that to the left and the right, or so the right and then the left. We'll do it up, we'll do it down, up and left, up and right, down and left, down and right. And the same thing applies. We want to have good posture when we do it, starting with around 5 reps in each direction, but we can definitely build up the number of reps over time and also increase the speed over time. And then the third exercise that we're going to work on is training the vestibular colic reflex specifically. So what we're going to be doing here is trying to keep our head still and rotating our body underneath. So when I do this, I'm going to keep my eyes focused on the camera lens, and I'm just going to try and rotate and just try and keep my head as still as I can. Now, one of the best ways to train this is going to be in front of a mirror, because it's hard to tell whether you're doing it really well when I'm standing in this format, but you can stand, you can look at your own eyes or look at your nose in the mirror, and you can see whether your head turns with your body or not, or whether you're able to actually keep it relatively still. And then once you've done that, you've kind of trained it in that format, you can then practice it without, maybe record yourself on camera like I'm doing and watch it back to see if you're able to maintain it without looking in the mirror. It's a very simple exercise, but it can be really effective. And if you combine the 3 together, and I guess for this one, maybe 30 seconds is a good starting point, but working up to around 60 seconds of kind of focused, trying to keep your spine nice and tall, trying to keep your head still, rotating the body underneath. Combine them as a program, the VOR, the VORC, and now this vestibular colic reflex. It takes a little bit of time. We are talking about training, so it's not a magic fix. If this system hasn't been working optimally for a period of time, it takes a little bit of training to get it working. But if you do that in combination with really focused practice, trying to keep your head still, it is going to make a massive difference. So hopefully that's been useful to you. Just again, a quick reminder about my coaching program. All things in tennis have physical prerequisites. You have to understand the tactics, you have to understand the technique, but at a certain point, it doesn't matter how hard you work and how much you practice, if your body isn't capable of doing something, it isn't capable of doing it. The way that we can change that is using targeted training and brain-based training like we've done here to fix underlying problems. So if you'd like to learn more about that, I've got the link for the class down below. Okay, any questions or comments about what I've talked about here, how to apply it? I would love to hear your comments in the comments section. Once again, if you found the video helpful, really appreciate the thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, if you could do that as well, that would be awesome. Okay, I'll catch you next time.